welcome everybody to our QualiWare Users Group meeting for October. Pleasure to have you all joining us, and some new faces as well that I see. Quick housekeeping, like we normally do. My name is Cecile. I'll be co-hosting or hosting the meeting today. Your cameras and microphones are open. Please feel free to make comments, ask questions at any point during the meeting. We are trying to make it an interactive session, so your cameras and microphones are wide open. If you do or are in a place where you have some background noise, please just put yourself on mute just so that we don't get noise on the line. And in case of a situation where that happens, I might actually mute you. So if you come back at any point and you try to speak and you discover that your microphone is muted, it might have been because I actually muted you. The meeting is being recorded, so will be sent out to everybody who joins the call today. In case you need to leave partway through or you missed something that was said, the meeting will be recorded. We have a very interesting topic for you today, so you just really don't want to miss anything. Is there anybody on the call who wants to say hello? I know we called out David, and he was nice enough to introduce himself from Transport Canada. Do we have any other folks on the call that want to say hello?
JR.
JR?
Okay. Hello.
Okay. Not quite sure why you got called out to say hello, but that's fine. Hi, JR.
Hi.
JR is my favorite. Hi from
Oh, oh, thank you.
That's funny. That's great.
My name's Daniel.
Okay.
This is my first time at one of these. I'm the Acting Director of Enterprise Architecture at Environment and Climate Change Canada.
Oh, great. Hi. Welcome.
Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. On the CloseReach side, Daniel, I'm Cecile. Nice to meet you. Kevin O'Rourke is on the call today. He's the president of our company. You'll hear from him in a couple of moments. Kirill is on, as you've seen. And we also have Kuno Broderson from QualiWare and Brenda Cowie from QualiWare joining us. And Pascel, our featured speaker, is also from QualiWare. So you've got some folks from both CloseReach and QualiWare on. So it's nice to meet you, and glad to have you part of our users group meeting.
Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Okay, great. I do appreciate you introducing yourself, Daniel. Thanks very much. Our agenda for today, we have CloseReach News with Kevin, and I will hand that over to him in a few minutes. And then we have a featured presentation today with Pascel Negros from QualiWare, based in France. Pascel is going to talk to us about ontologies, data relationships, and APIs in QualiWare. And then we will have time at the end for open discussion with everybody of any other topics that you might want to raise. Kevin, I will hand things over to you to go through our CloseReach news.
Great. So following our QualiWare user group meeting last month, customer success has been reaching out to all the different departments to schedule 1010 briefings to talk about what's required for the upgrade and anything that they need to be aware of. There is a new patch coming. We'll call it 1010.1. I don't know what the build number will be, but we will notify all primary and secondary and technical contacts as soon as it's released. And that's to fix the QualiChat issue that has arisen. If you're upgrading to 1010, you need to know that you need to request new licenses for this upgrade. That's different than previous releases. So, you just need to send us that license request, and we will and get that off to QualiWare to get you your new license that will function in the 1010 environment. The latest Gartner Magic Quadrant report is out, and it's available on QualiWare's website. And there's a blog post there by Brenda Cowie. So talking a little bit about that. So you may want to go
Yeah.
to QualiWare.com and check that out.
There is. I might be adding to that blog post, Kevin, just because I was at the Gartner IT Expo show last week and watched Austin, the lead analyst on that MQ, present. So I have a little extra info. So watch for that.
Okay, great. In terms of product updates, for those that are using our Discovery repository, it will be upgraded and distributed by the end of November, so that it will have all 10 functionality in it. And we are working on some new frameworks using the compliance management functionality in QualiWare for occupational health and safety, as well as for AI governance. So, which will make available to government, any government of Canada departments at no cost. Occupational health and safety, though, only available to those who have actually purchased the ISO standard. So, but the AI governance framework is not, it's not the ISO standard, but it is something that Treasury Board has endorsed as a Canadian standard. So we'll have that available as an export file if someone wants that. In terms of training updates, business architecture with Roger Burleton was pushed back to January 12th to 15th to accommodate another group of people who want to take the course in Halifax. And we're still looking for an anchor client for an Ottawa course. So we need, 5 people as a minimum to book Roger's time. So, and if you know Roger Burleton, he's a busy guy flying around the world talking about business architecture and helping organizations. RCMP used him here with their executive team to help align their thinking, from a business planning perspective, into strategy for the organization. And Roger's taught his business architecture course here a number of times. In terms of new events, Brenda and I and Leslie and Bruce in Halifax are going to be at the Atlantic Technology Summit, November 19th. And we'll be speaking on EA trends, optimizing value, and reducing complexity. So we'll be there for that day and hope to meet a number of people from out there. We're seeing a lot of activity actually out in the Halifax market. And let's see. I guess that's all, Cecile, that I have.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much,
Any questions,
Kevin.
anybody?
All right.
Great.
I'll take that as a no. Okay, we are ready to start with our featured presentation, and I would like to introduce all of you to Pascel Negros. Pascel is a former QualiWare customer and now a consultant with QualiWare in France, where he's involved in R&D on ontologies, APIs, data, and API integration, as well as knowledge engineering. That's actually harder to say than I expected. He has taught knowledge engineering at the Sorbonne and is currently lectures about enterprise transformation governance for an engineering school in France. Pascel is here to talk about how QualiWare supports engineering and reverse engineering between ontologies and APIs, as well as integration with conceptual and logical data modeling.
We will understand how we can take a JSON file, import it into the repository, creating an hierarchy at the top of which is a doc root, and exporting this content into another JSON file such that we can validate that the generation has been well done using Swagger. We will validate using Swagger. We will also see how to create or update content, API content into the repository using a specific diagram editor called a repository Explorer view. So let's go into QualiWare then. This is an empty repository. There is no content within this API part of the repository. You certainly know about the work models in QualiWare. These work models are used to document approaches or methods, and they define project activities which can be triggered in order to apply some actions impacting the repository. So here, for example, we can see that we are asked to find the API file. Then we create a doc root instance. Then we load the file within this doc root as a text field within the doc root instance. And then based on this content, we can create a full hierarchy of constituents of the OpenAPI content. Because this can be also done by using the tool menu option, we will use this possibility, import OpenAPI. Clicking on this, I'm asked to define a source file, which is the pet store source. And then after, I'm asked to tell if I want to reuse or not content. This reuse is not only the reuse of the content within the file, because we have the possibility to define constituents in the file, which are referenced everywhere in the file, such as schemas, which can be defined once and reused, for example, for defining the request bodies of the operations or the content of the response of these operations. Yes, I want to reuse. These templates are the templates which can be reused. They have been stated using a specific variable which can be updated by the user. So here I decided to reuse these ones. Now I'm asked to give a name to the doc root top of the API hierarchy. I name it pet store according to the name of the file. And we can see now that we have filled the repository with a big set of content. So if I open the pet store doc root I just defined, it has been filled with content within the path section and within the component section. If I click on this section, pet store, I can see the reusable content, which is defined within this API file and which is referenced in the other elements. We will see this later. The doc root, the API file, is also associated with general information about this pet store, what is its API, what is its purpose, who is the contact, what is the title or associated to this API, and so on. There is also the possibility to create a doc root structure. A doc root structure is the hierarchy, the manageable hierarchy of the API content, which can be edited using a specific diagram editor called Repository Explorer View. So let me create it then. Because we have references defined in the components section of the API, and these references can be reused, for example, in request bodies and so on, and even within schemas, we are asked if we want to expand these schema references to the full expansion or restrict it to only two-level expansions. As an example, we will see this after. The pet schema is defined with properties. One of these being the category of the pet, and the category is referencing a category schema where we can find the various categories existing for the pets, and therefore there is this two-level expansions between these two schemas. So I say yes, I want everything to be expanded. It is creating this structure, and it opens the Repository Explorer view. The Repository Explorer view, just like any diagram editor, has a symbol bar, and it has two panes, one showing the hierarchy, the other one showing the content of a selected node as defined, or the place where we will drag and drop elements from the symbols within this pane. So let's continue and see how this pet store structure is defined. If you remember, we had these two sections in the template, in the pet store doc.root template, the path and the components. If I open the pet schema, for example, we will see a set of properties, and some of these properties are further defined. Category, for example, is a link to the category schema, which has its own properties. By the way, as we can see that the pet schema has a property called ID, as well as the category has also a property called ID. ID is a common name for identifiers for elements. So it has the same name, whatever identifier rule you may have, but these are obviously different. So these IDs, as well as the names, as well as other properties such as URIs or status, or even other names, are common to many different definitions. Therefore, we can have multiple names, multiple instances with the same name for these common properties, common named properties. If we continue and we open, for example, this pass item, we will see that it has two operations, put and post. And if I expand the request body of this put, I can see that it has three different schemas depending on the type of request body which will be used. Would it be a JSON, an XML, or a URL-based request body? If I expand the put pet request body JSON, I will see that it is referencing the pet schema. And this pet schema is obviously defined as well as it was defined before in the components. Actually, this schema is a reference to this one. We are not defining in two different places the same thing. We define it into the component section and we reuse it. And because it is reused, we can see anything which is structuring this reference reused element. So up to now, we saw how to load an API file and how to navigate within the hierarchy. We can also create from scratch an existing hierarchy, and we will see this later, just after generating an API file from this content. So generating API files is also described into a work model where you see that you need first to select the doc root source of the generation and then run the content generator. But also it can be activated through the tools menu with export open API. So let me go to tools, export open API. I'm asked for the source of the generation, which is the doc root. And I select this one and I say, okay. And I will say pet store to gen, just to be sure, just for you to be sure that I'm not using something which already exists. Save. The content has been generated and now it can be reused outside of QualiWare. And we will see this by importing the file into the Swagger editor, pet store to gen, which I select, and I send to the Swagger editor, and it is fully validated and with no errors. Therefore, we generated a valid API content. But now what we need to do is to show how we can create from scratch an hierarchy, an API content hierarchy. For this, I will create a doc root, which I name pet management. Let's say. Management. And as well as a doc root structure, which I call structure of pet management. And I open it. Obviously, since it is an empty structure, which, because I didn't say which is the doc root, it provides a structure of it. I need now to create the first child, which is the doc root for this structure. And I select pet management. If you remember, we will have to define a path section with path items and a component section with at least schemas. In order to do this quickly, I will only create one path item, one operation within that path and so on, as well as only one schema within the components section. So here I will add a path item. which I name petpn / petpn. This is the syntax. Since I created a pass item, I can create operations now, but I will also define, let's say I create an operation. And I create an operation which I name post petpn, which is a post operation. Now I could either continue expanding post PN with request body and so on, or state at the level of pet management that I have a component section which I call pet management. The name I give are obviously following the syntax for the names in OpenAPI, but are the name I decide to provide. Back to this post operation, I will define the way the input is structured. For this, I will use a request body. And this request body, I name it post pet. PN post pest PN request body. This is the name I decide to give. For this post PN get PN pet PN request body, I will define the schema of the content. I will give a schema name to the content. So this schema name is post PN request body schema. And I specify which type of content it is. I say JSON. This post pet PN request body schema is referencing, I'm sorry, I don't need to open, is referencing an actual schema, which is pet PN. Which I will define now in the components. I will create a schema called petPN. And petPN is described with a set of properties, is defined with a set of properties, one being ID, one being name, and one being status. As I said before, ID and name and status are common names for this kind of properties, but they are not really the same depending on the context they are used in. But for this particular one, which is status, I decide to reuse the status which has been defined, the status which has been defined for pets. Okay, so I reuse it. And I think I'm done with the definition of the structure of this doc root. The only thing missing is the information, the general information about this file. So I go to the pet store doc root. sorry, not the pet store doc root, the pet management doc root. And I will fill the missing element. Here I specify the version of the OpenAPI specification I am using, 3.0.1, and I give a name to this info. I will create a set of properties associated to the general information for this file. I name it pet management. Oh, and now I can tell what is required. Many things are required, such as not everything is required. Some of them are required, such as giving a title, which I give pet management, a version of this file, 0.9, and possibly a contact. Okay. This is sufficient in order to do a generation behind. Okay. Okay. Now I have defined this pet management API file. I can generate it by exporting this content into a file. I select the doc root I'm starting from, pet management, and I give it a name, pet management. Save. I go to the Swagger editor and I verify that I did good work. Port file, pet management JSON, I transfer, and there is an error. Yeah. There are missing properties within. Missing property responses within. I forgot to define the responses. So let me go back. Let me go back. I go to my structure of pet management. I forgot to define responses to my post-operation response. So my response is 200, for example. And I know that I need to provide a description to it. So I will add a description, successful operation. And I will provide a second one just for being complete, which is 405. Okay. And I know also that I need to provide it with a definition, a description, invalid input. I save it. I can obviously verify that it was added to the pet management doc root, but I will directly export this OpenAPI. I will export pet management, and it will replace the pet management file. I will import again in Swagger. And this time it is okay. So I just forgot to add these responses before. You can notice that as I reuse status, I reuse the specification of it. It's a string. It has an enumeration list of values which are available pending or sold. So this concludes épisode 1. Avez-vous des questions? Hello?
Hello. Pascal is able to answer questions in both official languages. Pascal, I did have an attendee ask could you show the model in QualiWare? Is that something that you would be able to do? Could you show the model in a QualiWare example? Or am I putting you on the spot?
I could, but I'm not prepared for doing it at the moment. So, and I'm not in a very well connected world here. So I would probably better postpone this demonstration, obviously, to a later communication with this person who asked the questions. I'm ready
Or
to do it, but not at
maybe
the
we could
moment.
do a follow-up recording, maybe,
Yeah.
Pascal.
I'm sorry?
Perhaps we could do a recorded session and send it out to the group afterwards.
I can record. For example, if I go back, how do I go back? It will be difficult to go back. Yeah,
we would do a separate.
Yeah, we would do it afterwards.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I can record all the paths you saw in the picture where there was a QualiWare repository with doc root, ontology, and so on. I will record the load of API files, the generation of it, the comparison of them. I will show the way the ontology views are generated and reverse, starting with an existing ontology, the generation of the API file, and so on. I will do this. Yes, it's the best. It's the better way, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Terry, you got a question? Jump in.
Yeah. As you're probably well aware and have experienced many times, lots of organizations with legacy systems only have a physical data model or have reverse engineered from an actual database, a data model. And in some cases, we have conceptual models, but maybe they don't line up exactly with what is going on. And we have multiple systems with same subject matter areas, but represented differently. So my question is, do a lot of organizations, when they have that much content and they're trying to create an ontology, how do they start? Do they go to the physical, create the conceptual, and then work towards the ontology? Or do they try and create the ontology first and then attach to the things that they do have? Because
I understand. The two ways are possible. The two cases exist. For example, we have today a customer who is trying to manage all the APIs they have. So we are rather at the physical level here. When they develop the functions which are called through the APIs, they do this with physical data, which are defined into data models. What we provided them was to use these data models, generate them into ontologies, and then
generate the corresponding API for them. On the other hand, what they did is they loaded their APIs into the QualiWare repository, and they reverse engineered the API content into the ontology. Another example is somebody who starts with the need for having to interoperate with a third party, and they agree on the data they exchange. The way they agreed on the data they exchange was by looking at the standard defined in the ontologies. The story I'm telling you here is outside of the QualiWare. When we explain them that they have this ability to start from the ontology they decided to use to communicate with each other, to communicate with each other, and this ontology can be loaded into QualiWare, obviously. Then they can later connect the elements of the ontology with their real data through the data model they have and physical implementation of those data. And so, yeah, it really depends on the starting point. It really depends on the starting point. If it is first an interoperability issue, then people will rather start with an ontology. If this is more a better understanding of what are my data in the company and how I can have a semantic view of these data, they will start from the data model they have and reverse engineer them progressively into ontologies and relate with the domain-specific ontologies, of course.
OK.
Did I answer?
Oui, merci pour votre réponse complète. Merci.
Yeah.
Farid, I saw your note that you were interested in the demo in QualiWare. Did you have any particular questions while you're here that you might want to ask Pascal?
I am a data architect with CBSA. So the thing is, well, I understand theory very well. So thank you for the presentation. But I'm not sure that there might be, I don't know, some out of the box example available in QLM, but I don't know. That's another question. But if I don't know, in a small example, used as a demo in QualiWare, it would help us, maybe we can utilize that things in our work environment.
So yeah, this relate with the first question that Cécile mentioned at the beginning of this session, which is if I provide you with a recording of the loading of JSON file, the reconciliation of the JSON files at time you load 2 or more, the moving upwards to ontologies and the linkage, the data models, then probably you will have a better feeling of how we do it, how you could do it actually.
Yeah, that's perfect, because at the moment, like anywhere else, integration between different application is a big challenge, and we would love to see how we can utilize the QualiWare at CBSA to do, to battle some of those challenges.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw you speaking. That's okay. I thought you said something and you were on mute. That's okay. Carol, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, just to follow up, because there's going to be a recording happening. Thank you for the presentation, Pascal. In that demo, record, it'd be really nice to understand the relationship and how you could convert from ontology diagram, because we looked into the ontology diagram and we tried to understand how do you actually generate the API code or convert it into the API calls or the code from the ontology itself, and that was challenging. So it'd be really nice to understand how do you do about that conversion.
So there is an obvious one. At the beginning, I said that an API file has two main sections, the components and the paths. It is easy to generate anything about the components because these are really related with the structure you could have either in a class diagram or data models, and better in an ontology diagrams. The path is more about what you want to apply on this schema. I want to get information from, for example, a user or a customer. I would like to put a status to a specific pet, for example, in my pet store. This is more use case oriented, actually. So the way I do this generation from an ontology to an API file is I generate anything which could appear as meaningful following the ontology. But I'm sure I'm not doing the generation for most use cases. I'm doing this for the simplest one. For example, if I take my pet store example, I generate something, generate an API file, which helps getting knowledge about a specific pet, getting the list of pets which are of a certain status, what the list of pets which has been ordered recently, and so on. All of this is generic enough, but you could have specific use cases. So I'm not pretending that I generate all the API which are useful for the company. I'm just saying that I generate the minimum useful for managing the data at the end, which are exposed and managed across these two partners. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's self-explanatory for sure. It makes sense that you cannot cover every single use case or top task within those interactions within the ontology and the API, but having some of the base examples would be really nice to cover. My next question.
Let me continue on what I said before.
Sure.
Sorry. For example, in my pet store example, the pets have images. There are photos showing the pet. I didn't work on. I don't generate automatically something which is based on a picture. I would like to have this kind of pet corresponding to that picture. This I cannot imagine doing it for the moment.
Yeah.
It's too difficult. But otherwise, for example, if you look at the Amazon catalog, and you are a regular user looking for a computer, for example, it is easy to imagine the way you will, based on the ontology behind, the way you will navigate through the list of computers, the different brands, the size of the screen, the size of the memory, and so on. It is easy to imagine that based on base data, you can provide a set of APIs corresponding to this. Not all, of course, but a good set of them. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And my second question is, I know that there has been some additional API capabilities that were released in 10.10, and I know we spoke over the email, and you said that at some point there will be an API package that which you will prepare or provide. Is that something that you have in your one of your objectives?
Could you repeat, please? I didn't get it.
Yeah, so the API package, what we talked, you and I talked over the email, you said that at some point it will be prepared. Is that something that's in the pipeline?
Yeah, that's in the pipeline. I let Kuno answer on this, but I can start the discussion. When I started working on this, I was obviously in QLM because it was the easiest way for me to do this. But we need to have this installed in such that it can be done using the web installation of QualiWare.
I gotcha. Yeah.
And Kuno can probably say something about this.
Thank you.
Actually, I have something to add as well. I'm just putting.
Kuno's got his hand up though.
Actually, I get to go first.
Oh,
I just put 2 links in the chat. One, they're both from the Center of Excellence. One is approach, using the AP architecture meta model, and the other talks about ontologies in QualiWare. And so they relate to one another. It also links out to the GAL implementation and how that might be leveraged. So you may want to do a bit of reading on the Center of Excellence on some of these topics as an introduction before we get the video from Pascel. Sorry, Kuno. Go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you. Well, I had a couple of comments. So one of the things that we saw now from Pascel, the ability to navigate from logical data model through ontologies to API or the other way around. It's absolutely correct that not everything is generated because not everything is modeled. Typically with the clients that we see. But it's important to remember that you can edit at each of these levels. So the idea that you have an ontology, which is sort of the overarching knowledge structure, is the platform independent layer basically of your integration. It is a way that allows you to discuss what type of knowledge are we sharing between systems. Yes, you can use that to generate the open API, which is a more physical layer. But if it doesn't include everything, Pascel showed the hierarchical diagram where you can edit and complete the model before you generate the Swagger file or the JSON file. So that's one thing. The other way around goes for the same thing, of course. You may want to move it back, but at the end of the day, you want it to link into your logical models that your conceptual data models or whatever that you have in your business, and these may have been approved by a lot of different business owners already. So there may be mappings or further editing in the logical model when you import your APIs. The other thing I wanted to say was that we already have a customer using the Open API to integrate into QualiWare. Basically, they're using it to integrate. They create a special customizable integration between ServiceNow and QualiWare, and they have ServiceNow has a special meta model, so they use that Open API reverse engineering that Pascel built, and then we generate the API code so that we can get data out of ServiceNow and pull it into QualiWare, and the other way around. So there is a sort of a very nice sort of set of features that will allow you to not just generate and develop and maintain a 100% documentation of your integration, but also move it to a higher level where you can actually have an overview of what is the information we're sharing in the business. And for the customer that Pascel talked about, we are talking about several hundred systems. So it's not just a small thing here. They really do want that knowledge to be shared, of course, at the physical level, but also to be understood at a platform independent layer. And that's why this is so powerful.
Thanks, Kuno.
Sure.
Any other questions regarding today's presentation or questions for anybody else on the call? Going once, going twice. JR?
No, actually I really enjoyed this. I'd like
Okay,
to see a
great.
copy of the presentation. The audio was a little choppy for me. It's probably just me. I'd like to be able to read the PowerPoint on my own time and then kind of follow along with the demo as well out of QualiWare.
Sure.
It's awesome. Much appreciated for setting this up as well, Cecile. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed it. Yes, absolutely. We will send out that information, and we'll work with Pascal and the QualiWare team on the recording of the example as well, so we can get that sent out to everybody. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you again, Pascal, for that presentation. I think everybody found it to be very interesting. And Kuno and Brenda, thank you very much for attending our user group meeting. The next meeting will be in November. It will be November 24th, 1 month from Christmas Eve, for those of you who might not be counting how much long we have left until Christmas. Please do submit questions or ideas ahead of the meeting. If there are things that you would be interested in us presenting, more detailed technical information about the tool, we're happy to do so. So please do send us your ideas, your questions, and we will look to get those addressed. But the next meeting will be the 24th of November, the Monday. It will be the same time. And we certainly hope that you can all join us.
Will it be a hybrid meeting?
It might be a hybrid meeting. We might have an open house on December 24th. No, on November 24th, we might have an open house. So it will be a combo, but more information to come.
That would be great.
This is how you can reach us. If you have questions about anything or just want to chat, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we will see you guys all next month.